Howdy, y'all. You got the Bulldog on the channel. Working at home again. And I wanted to stop because this is something I've never seen before. But, first for everything, I guess. Got this 2001 Mazda. Now, this is one that a customer contacted me a few months ago. Said, of no hurry. It was an extra truck that he bought just because it was cheap, had the motor out of it. He pulled the motor out, and he had a come to Jesus moment in it, and he decided that he wasn't working on it anymore. He got upset with some things, and he just decided, you know what, I'm not a mechanic, let's just pay a mechanic to do it. And I got tapped in. Some guys won't do that because you're basically getting into a basket case. You don't know kind of what they've done, but I know the guy, and he was going to be there for me to ask, whenever anything was, any questions, because he'd taken it apart. His dad helped him on it. So I stopped by, and it was at his place, and all the pieces were strung around. They had been in the middle of moving. His grandpa had a mechanic shop, and they moved everything out of there because they sold the building, and so they were in the middle of moving when he tried to do this, so everything was mixed up. There was other parts mixed into it. After he had put it off for a while, he had tried to go back to it, and then he just got overwhelmed because it's just a mixture of stuff. You don't know what you're looking at, and if you don't do it every day, even if you do it every day, it can be overwhelming when you get into one that you've forgotten where everything goes. But the older they are, actually, the easier they can be, because there's so much stuff that it can only go one way. And so I stopped by, got all the pieces put together, got the motor put back in it. We went to try to start it there just to make sure that the motor was good, because it was a used one, and it wouldn't hit. Couldn't hear the fuel pump at all. So I said, well, it has been sitting for quite a while. And told him, well, we got everything kind of put together now. Pieces are all in pretty much one piece. So get it out to my shop. We can get it up on a lift and do that fuel pump. Well, in the process of pulling it out of the building and loading it, they had gotten underneath of it and wiggled around the fuel pump wires, and it took off and run. Okay, cool. We got fuel now. And he thought, well, should I take it out there or not? Now it cranks, and it's got fuel pressure. And that's about when they saw fuel running out on the ground. And they looked up there, and I had pointed out that the fuel rail didn't look right. When the salvage yard pulled the motor, they hooked the fuel rail with a chain and bent the heck out of it. Well, got nothing to lose. I can just try to bend it back into shape and see if it leaks. We have the other fuel rail, but that was the part that had to be changed to make the engine work, because the other one was a different style. He was told that the only thing you have to change is the intake, and I told him there's most of the time you got to change quite a bit when you're dealing with a used motor. And yeah, by the end of it, he was pretty convinced that used motors are just, you just better figure on switching everything. But he got it out here. I got some pieces. The person he bought it from has started parting it out. So there was a bunch of stuff missing. It was missing the AC condenser. It was missing the radiator. They, instead of unhooking the AC lines, they cut them off. So we had to buy all new AC lines. Well, I steered him towards the salvage yard, and he was able to buy all that stuff for a couple $100. Yeah, about $300. Got the AC condenser, got the radiator, got the air compressor. AC compressor was missing. We'll see if it's any good. I'm not too cracked on used ones, but as long as they come off one that has just been running, you know, they can do okay. But I got all those pieces put on there and got it to start that one night. I had bent the fuel rail back and got it into position, and I just turned the key on and just touched the battery to get it to run the fuel pump for a second, and watched back there at that back corner, and no more fuel leak. And tonight I got home and got the radiator stuck in it, because he had just gotten a radiator. Got the radiator stuck in it, got the transmission lines hooked up, which is why I was having to work on it outside, because it wouldn't want to move. But I got the transmission lines hooked up, filled it full of fluid, and hooked up the battery, fired it up. Transmission worked. Pulled it into the shed here, because I had some other things that needed to have some attention done. And I got pieces put back together in the front of the vehicle. But here is what made me stop and say, well, I'll just film this. He bought brand new hoses. I picked this one up, and when I moved it, I heard something. I thought, well, this is an upper hose. It's not supposed to have a spring in it. Some of the lower hoses have a spring that goes in the hose, and that keeps them from sucking shut, because the cold coolant runs from the bottom of the radiator into the motor, and it's into the suction side of the water pump, and you get the hose nice and soft, warm. And if you have a powerful motor and a big water pump, it'll take that hose and suck it flat. So they put a spring in there so that it holds its shape. But no, this is a upper hose. It's not going to have a spring in it. And I looked down in it. The guy who returned this hose to the store might have been pretty pissed he couldn't find his receipt. Couldn't remember what he did with it. Those are little things that happen. You know, I have heard people say, well, it can't be this because it's a new part. I'll show you something else. You see that air conditioner line right there? It runs into the condenser right there. I had a vehicle here 4 or 5 years ago that the customer complained that the AC wouldn't work. And okay, I checked it. It was full, but it wouldn't work. And I checked the pressures on it, you know, because it was full, and you start it up, and the high side pressure would go way high. So, okay, it's got a blockage somewhere. Recovered all the refrigerant, and I had noticed the reason, you know, I was taking it apart, I had noticed a bunch of oil, air compressor oil, around one of the fittings that go to the condenser. And I unhooked the line there, because it obviously had a leak, and I pulled that line off. Here, I'll have to show you guys that might not know. Here we go. There's one of them. new parts, used parts. The one thing you don't want is junk getting inside those lines, whether it's a radiator or an AC condenser or anything for that matter. So they have these things here, little caps, and they'll stuff them in a hole or they'll put them over top of a nipple, and it prevents things from getting inside of it. So new parts come with a small plug stuck in the hole. I pulled that AC line off and I looked in there. There was a cap stuck in the hole. The customer was actually waiting because it was just supposed to be an AC check. And I asked him, hey, do you happen to hit a deer last year or so? Because I noticed that the condenser looked brand new. And he had said, he had said that no, he's never been in a collision. I asked about a front end collision. No, he'd never been in a collision. I said, nobody's ever taken this apart. He's, oh, yeah, I hit a deer last fall. Okay. Did the AC work after you get it back? Well, I think it did. It was pretty cold at the time. It's like, well, I can tell you, it didn't. I pulled that cap out of there. The seals hadn't even been replaced. I have been known to put the old seals back sometimes when they're in really good shape and I don't have any new ones. But this was an auto body shop. They got paid for new seals. Why not just put them in? But I pulled that cap out of there, put new seals on it, cleaned it up, put it back together, evacuated it. Yeah, evacuation means suck it down to a vacuum. Removes all the air and moisture, which you have to do to AC. And charged it up, and it worked great. Like I said, that just, finding that receipt stuff down in that hose just kind of made me think of that. It's something that every once in a while you have one of them oddball things, and if it comes to me, you're guaranteed to have something oddball that nobody's ever heard of that I'll find. I don't know how many people have ever had a coolant issue, radiator plugged up because they find that there was a receipt stuffed in a radiator hose. But like I say, if it's going to happen, it's probably going to happen around me. But anyway, you guys can like, comment, subscribe, share it around, hit your little bell notification down there, and hopefully, my little discussions help people understand mechanics a little better, the good ones anyway. Like I say, I've said in previous videos, you want a good mechanic. A good mechanic can do you a lot of good. A bad mechanic can do you a lot of bad. And that's one of the things that a good mechanic will do, is they'll, even if they're busy, if you have something that you don't understand, it is to our benefit that you understand why something is. Sometimes that's not possible if you're having a hard time, but when you know why we're doing what we're doing, well, then you understand why it needs to be done. You understand the risk you're taking if you don't do it. There are certain things that, you call up and say, hey, I've got this problem here, and I'm not too concerned with it because it's not a big deal. You are, because you've got a light on or you've got a noise or something like that, and you describe to me what it is. Oh, that's no big deal. Next time you're in, we'll take care of it, or make an appointment. Whenever you call and say, hey, I've got some funky deal going on, and you describe it to me, and I say, you need to get where you're going immediately. Whenever I say that, you need to understand he means what he says, and there's something bad wrong. It can cost me a lot of money if I don't take care of it. There's some people who say, well, it's just going to have to go. Well, no, it's not just going to have to go. It's going to go as far as it's going to go, and then it's going to let you down. And things get expensive when it lets you down. We don't want that to happen because we want you to keep your car. We want you to repair your car and keep driving it. That repair is a lot cheaper than a new car most of the time. So, like I say, I ranted another couple of minutes. Like, comment, subscribe, and share it around. We'll talk at y'all later.